Hey everybody, I think we're live. My team's gonna kill me if this isn't the right link, but I'm not really great at always making the technology happen without them here. So I hope that you're able to see this. I'm not sure if you are, but we're trying things new all the time, and this is really how we make it happen. Uh, I'm not seeing too many people in there, so I'm going to check and wait and see if they're coming or not. Hang on one second. I'm not sure you can see me. So I'm completely technologically incompetent, and I'm just going to keep talking until a few people join me. I hope for those of you for whom accessibility is an issue, that you'll be able to make do from here in terms of reading along with the captions until we get live captions in place. I apologize if the lighting is not great or some other things are going on. I'm working from my kitchen table, and it's not the most ideal conditions in terms of making sure that we're eliminating glare and whatnot. But I will try to get that out of the background there and the light in the background. Anyway, moving my chair the other way. Hopefully that will work. Okay. That thing is driving me crazy back there. Anyway, we're here for the live stream. It's not always going to be easy, but you know what? This is the kind of leadership that it takes some complexity with a smile, and we're going to try and get things started from here. We have had a wild ride of a week. My goodness. It's been just, oops, maybe I can get this to go away too. Oh, sorry. Sunday night vibes up in here. I don't remember having this thing in there before. I get to see my Virgin of Guadalupe candle that I'm using to hold it. Everything is held together with duct tape these days. So, and I'm wearing my Sunday. Oh, you've got a Sunday Parkway shirt on too, Josh? It's cool. I'm glad to see that you're tuned in. Well, here we go. Let's get this thing started. The campaign has found itself in a whole new world. We built ourselves an army for 7 months, only to find that we needed a navy to swim through this chaos that we're facing and still unseat the incumbent, for whom I think Portland, how can I phrase this diplomatically? I'm not sure that what we're getting out of our leadership right now is what we need to be getting. That is quite certain. I'm not feeling great about the policy response, not from Governor Kate Brown. We have been yelling, it feels like, into the leadership void. Personally, we are on, I think, day 10 or 11 of self-imposed soft quarantine at our house here because my daughter had flu-like symptoms 2 weeks ago, and then right after the street trust debate on Tuesday night at Clinton Street Theater, I was not feeling well, and I know people on my staff were not feeling well, and we were really concerned by the briefings that we were getting from a retired virologist at the World Health Organization, an epidemiologist at Portland State University, from people who are working up at OHSU, in terms of the fact that even if people were not feeling poorly, we could potentially be transmitting the virus because we can be transmitting it when we're not feeling ill. We can be transmitting it for days after we're sick. And so what did it mean for those of us with the capacity and privilege to soft quarantine or isolate ourselves at home and go out as infrequently as possible? My family had the option of doing that, and so did our staff. At the same time, my team released that 8-point plan, hoping that we could guide in some ways dealing with this. And that is something that I feel very strongly about, that we should continue to demand. we asked that the city adopt a rapid response team approach. And what we've been getting is disjointed, disconnected information, a lot of uncertainty in terms of who's doing what and for whom, where, when. The public, we demanded that they keep the public informed and be transparent about the decisions they were making and the measures that they've been implementing. And I feel like it's been the opposite of that. There's less and less data coming to us from all levels. There's less and less clarity in terms of who's doing what and why. There's less and less clarity in terms of timing and coordination when we need to be working better together faster. I haven't seen the emergency support come in place for small business owners. I haven't seen what we're going to be doing in terms of protecting them, making sure that their employees are getting access to the help that they need. Fortunately, we have seen calls. Our fourth point that we wanted was a moratorium on evictions. This seems to have been more popular with our policymakers. Fortunately, Governor Kate Brown did put that moratorium on evictions, going above and beyond. So that includes all people, regardless of whether or not it's just directly impacted by the virus crisis or whether that was happening beforehand. We can't have any people slipping into homelessness in the middle of this crisis. But at the same time, I have not heard a moratorium on sweeps. I've had reports that sweeps are happening. I've not been able to confirm these because I can't get out there. So if you do see Portland police interfering with people's ability to exist who don't have houses in the streets, please let me know so we can be tracking this. Another thing, yes, the county and city and region are coordinating to get multiple shelters open. I've heard that Charles Jordan Community Center is opening. I've heard that the convention center is opening. But at the same time, there are many, many people who are out in our streets, either voluntarily or involuntary in this current context. I have had reports of at least 50 to 60 people out on the trail behind Fred Meyer off Lombard in St. John's, for whom they were promised by the joint office the necessary hygiene. No hygiene station is there. There is no water. There is no hand washing. There's no hand sanitizer. I think there's one porta potty for between 50 and 60 people. So we're going to have to get on this. We may have to do some self-organizing here in our own communities to make sure that the water stations, we might have to rig up some 2.5 gallon containers, like by multiples, tape them together and build hand washing stations ourselves if the government is not making these possible. We've asked people to make sure that we are deploying safety watches to folks without housing right now. So are the latrines being delivered? Are there wellness checks in place? Is there food delivery, first aid, medicine delivery? I don't know. I can't find out that information. I'm not sure what's happening. Seventh point on our plan was ensuring that Portlanders in quarantine are having their daily needs met. I know that my campaign has worked a little bit on this by distributing these cards, these Hello Neighbor cards, where you can actually drop these off with your neighbors. Make sure you're washing your hands before you drop them off. And let your neighbors know if you can help them. If you're not a person who's in quarantine and who does have some extra capacity, then that would be great in terms of, are we able to get help to those folks? And I have not been able to keep close track on whether or not there are hate crimes happening in our city. I was very thankful to hear that there was assistance coming out of Prosper Portland for the J District businesses, because we know that they've been disproportionately affected by the xenophobia, xenophobia, and racism that's coming the way of Asian Portlanders. And so making sure that we are having folks' backs on that is going to be very important for us as a community. So obviously you can see that when we're thinking about campaigning, it's not simple. These are complex times, and so we've had to pivot and think about ways that as we are spending our precious time, energy, resources to unseat Ted Wheeler so that we can have some compassionate, courageous, bold, I would almost go so far as to say motherly leadership out of the mayor's office at a critical time, whether we're dealing with this virus now or the climate crisis ahead or even the traffic deaths in our street. We need more practical, solutions-oriented leadership, it's going to be important to keep this campaign moving forward. So there's going to be phone banks coming up this week. I hope that you will think about going to the events page at sarah2020.com/events. You can sign up Monday, Wednesday, or Friday this week. I think Ryan is going to be leading these. He's a fantastic individual. He will train you if you need to. We'll make it possible for you to be able to do this on your own terms in a way that you feel comfortable for. I know not everyone feels comfortable interacting with strangers on the phone, but we're going to try and make this easy for you. We're moving toward a distributed organizing model. So we're thinking about text a friend. You have a phone, right? Hopefully it's in better shape than mine without cracks in the screen. But you have a phone that's filled with contacts of people that you know without having to tap into our voter access files or our databases. Can you sign up to reach out to every person in your phone at that quiet moment? Maybe you need to take a break from work, or maybe you want to take a few minutes to work on the campaign, and just work your way through the contacts in your own phone. We have an app that we want to connect you with as you're doing that. It's called Reach. It's the same one that AOC used to reach out to her community, because people were residing in multifamily housing where it's hard to track people when they're in an apartment. So this Reach app will let us help you connect with your network on our behalf. And again, you can sign up at our website, sarah2020.com/volunteer, to get connected to that. We're going to ask you also to sign up if you're going to be a part of that distributed organizer model. So these are the things that we can do. Hang on, I got to plug in. I'm not too smart. Oh, there I go. You can see my vintage swan lamp too. I'm going to have to move this slightly so it reaches. Sunday night. Okay, we're getting really close now. The distributed organizing model is something that we're going to want you to sign up for. Then another thing I'm so excited about, and this actually came our way from people who are out in the community already helping. They said, what about our elders? Our elders are the ones who are going to be most vulnerable to this. To keep them safe, we need to keep them inside in that highest level of isolation, which affects their mental health. It affects their ability to meet their needs on a day-to-day basis when they were already some of the most challenged people in our city. It's one of those reasons why an age-friendly city is so important. But what does it mean for us as we're doing this outreach to try and get me elected mayor, to make sure that we're getting a 2-4 or even a 3-4? So can we connect with our elders in our community and make sure that they're cared for at this critical time? I think so. And so again, if you go to sarah2020.com and sign up to volunteer, you can get tapped into some compassionate outreach models we have to connect with our elders, which is going to be phenomenal. And then don't forget, the easiest way you can help us, where all you have to do is sign up, is go to sarah2020.com/lawn sign, and one of our team or our volunteers, it might even be me, because I'm going bananas from not being on my bike everywhere. I'm used to clocking easily over 100 miles a week on my bike. So I took my cargo bike into the bike shop this week. Thanks, Jonathan Mouse at Bike Portland, for keeping a running list of whose bike shops are still open. And I'm probably going to be delivering some of those lawn signs myself. I might even come over to the DIY lunches on the porch on Northeast 7th this week and see if I can drop off some lawn signs there. So don't hesitate to sign up if you want a lawn sign. No viral contact at all. We'll drop it in your yard for you, and we're being careful to take care of the azaleas and the lavender plants and everything else that's blooming. The COVID page that we mentioned on the back of this, which is sarah2020.com/COVID, right there. I'm so bad at this backwards thing. Should be live probably tomorrow. The team has been working really hard to get that up, and what that will have is policy updates from my team about what we should be doing. Hopefully it could be influencing the current administration. We wish they would just take our ideas and steal them and run with them, but regardless, at least it helps shape best practices thinking here, because we are talking to experts, and maybe it's some experts that the mayor and his staff aren't talking to. Go figure. Also, we'll put the links to the hubs on there. So there are some good hubs already. There's the mega thread that's on Reddit. For those of you who are Reddit users, I have to look because it's a long one. It's Reddit Portland COVID-19 coronavirus mega thread 4. So look for that one. There's the Facebook, which is the PDX COVID-19 mutual aid account. And then there's the community action handbook.pdxpc.org. So you can find those resources on our website. We'll try to accumulate them here. Wow, big update as we head into Sunday night. It's pretty wild out here. The weekend doesn't really feel much like a weekend. It's a little strange to work from home all the time. I've already been on that tip because I'm campaigning. Weekends are a thing I haven't really seen in about 7 months. I try to carve out spaces. This might be a tip that I can share for you in terms of my working. So I've actually carved out parts of my home. It's one of the reasons I always come to this part of my kitchen table when I'm talking to you, because this is my campaign working space. So I know when I've come here that that's what I've sit down here to do. Sometimes I eat some snacks here as well, but mostly if I'm sitting here with my computer, I'm working on the campaign. And that means that when I go to other parts of my house, I'm not working on the campaign. I have a space where I like to do some crafts. I try to keep a quiet space in my bedroom so that when I go in there, I can rest and sleep tight. And I have a space where I watch movies and some shows with my daughter and play some games and things like that. So I'm trying to create those zones in my home. I know for those of you who have young people at home, it can be much harder. Some of my staff are really dealing with the multiple demands of childcare or elder care while they're trying to work from home and trying to get some rest. So I sympathize with you. I know none of us are thinking very linearly right now, or even always analytically. There's a lot of emotions that come into what we're doing. There's a lot of complexity and confusion, and I called it almost like whatever the FOMO equivalent would be of fear of not helping more. Am I doing enough? Am I sewing masks fast enough? Am I contributing to the helper networks enough? Am I making sure that I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to be helping out? And then I remembered, like, we have to take care of ours and our own first. It's that, oxygen mask and the airplane advice, put on your own mask first. So making sure you're taking good care at home is something I want to reinforce for you. I know the rainy weather is going to be coming, so the time that you need to take to get outside might be a little harder. Maybe you should all have rain capes. That's a pro tip. I love the rain cape, but thinking about making sure you're just taking time to get out and breathe fresh air. We did have some challenges this weekend with that, though, and so I want to encourage you. And I forgive me if this is redundant and you already know this, but I just want to make sure we're spreading the word and telling you, even if you're feeling fine, even if you're feeling 100%, you could still be carrying the virus and spreading the virus. This is one reason why having the voluntary social distancing is perhaps not being as effective as the mandatory shelter-in-place model, which we've been calling for, and why we have been calling for it so vehemently. If you're feeling well, it's very possible you could still be infecting people. And this is why we're trying to get people to stay in their homes as much as possible. And if you do need to go for a walk, don't go to a crowded nature park. Don't go to a trail where there might be crowded trailheads. Don't go to places where you have to come into contact with people in any way, because what we're really trying to do is say, keep your distance from each other, because you might be spreading the virus. And while that might not be affecting you, and it might not even be affecting that person, what we're doing is we're infecting so many people at such a high rate that it could overwhelm our healthcare system in ways that's going to make it collapse. And what we're doing now by staying home inside while we feel safe is trying to prevent that. And if we're doing it right, it's going to feel like we're overreacting. And I just want you to remember that feeling like you're overreacting is okay. There's no shame in that game. Stay home, stay inside, and make sure that you're practicing the best social distancing that you can. If that means going to the store once a week, so be it. Check in with your neighbors before you go to see if maybe you can make one run for everybody. There's that. Let me give you a little update apart from that, and we can circle back to what's going on in Oregon, because as you know, I talk an awful lot about Portland being a model for the world. So I've been trying to connect with some of my friends from around the world, especially since I'm much easier to catch at my kitchen table than I have been on the campaign trail. They've been sending me quick notes. Sarah, how's it going? How's it going? And so today I got to have a conference call. I guess you would call it what, a video call with my good friend in Kenya. He's got a 6-week-old baby and a 9-year-old, and he works for county government there. And his whole government, the entire county government of Laikipia, Kenya, came to Portland a few years ago to study civic engagement with us, to study ways of doing environmental conservation, so things like Oregon Solutions and the urban growth boundary, because he lives in this vibrant place with wildlife preserves and vibrant forests and abundant wildlife. And meanwhile, as you know, they're urbanizing very quickly. So they wanted to learn from Oregon the things that we had done 40 and 50 years ago with regard to smart growth and how we can make sure that we're preserving precious farm and forest land that's part of our economy for future generations, even as we create compact urban areas. And they were thinking about new civic engagement models to places where there may not be internet access, doing placemaking. And so I've loved watching as their government in some ways leapfrogs ours with best practices and innovations in terms of civic engagement and good government and connecting with people. So he said that they're doing a fantastic job there, that the president of Kenya actually mandated the shelter in place for the entire country. It's working very well. The streets of Nairobi, where it's usually congested, it can take you hours to get from one side of the city to the other because the congestion is abysmal. This is a mega city, right? One of the global mega cities. And so he said the streets are completely empty. Everyone is inside their homes. They're voluntarily doing this, even though it's mandated. There hasn't had to be much enforcement. So I think this notion that good leadership, being clear about why it's important to stay home, but also making it mandatory that people stay home, is working. So many things happening there. The same is here. The young people are bored. The couples are working hard to make sure that they don't end up quarreling. People are trying to do good communication, learning new games, starting new hobbies. But generally speaking, things are going very well there. He's watching our mayoral election very closely too, because they have a progressive leader at the helm of Kenya right now. And so the more progressive leadership we can get, especially right down to our local governments, the better. And I'm always so excited when I get to talk to folks like that. I'll try to bring you updates too. I'm going to try and check in with my friends up in Canada later today or tomorrow, and also Brazil. So hopefully I'll have some updates from you about how things are going in different parts of the world. That will be fun. So don't hesitate to ask me questions about that too. That's one of the things I do have that I don't get to talk about much, is this global network of city leaders that I've worked with over the last 10 years, and how we can share ideas from city to city or locality to locality, in some ways skipping the traditional channels just because we've built those relationships. Some non-COVID related news, 2 things I want to put on your radar. The No More Freeways Coalition. It seems so intractable. You would think that in the middle of a crisis where no one is on the roads, and we've seen that road widening isn't how you address congestion, because we don't have congestion at the Rose Quarter interchange anymore. And it's not because we widened the road, it's because we got cars off it. Would have some influence on ODOT and the Oregon Transportation Commission and Governor Kate Brown. But as we know, the state of Oregon isn't listening to us particularly well when it comes to things that Portlanders need, that the state can help us with. So I encourage you to go to No More Freeways PDX. There's a place you can sign in. Please write a letter. Tell our elected officials not to spend over $1 billion. I'm sure it's going to be, if it's a cent, on widening a freeway. That's a complete waste of money. Let's walk that back. Let's take the lessons of Tom McCall and the Mount Hood Freeway Revolt and try to claw back that money and use it for active transportation and true safety investments and the things that we know our communities need: sidewalks and lighting in places where people are actually dying in this city. 50 deaths, 51 actually, on Portland streets last year, and not a single one was in that area of I-5. So it's just complete bullshit. Excuse my French. I think I can swear on the Facebook. I do it on Twitter. That they want to spend this money on that. So if you have a chance, go send in that letter to the No More Freeways Coalition. And also on the street side, the gas tax is going to come up for renewal. I want to make sure that we support this. It's a very unsexy thing, slurry and paving and potholes, but it's essential whether you're walking or cycling or scooting or using a mobility device or even driving your private automobile. That gas tax, that 10 cents gas tax, is so important to making sure that our transportation budget is maintained. And there's a list of projects in there. We've tried to think of those through an equity lens and other things out of PBOT. So please spread the word. It's going to be hard to pass some of these measures because people are very distracted and they have a lot on their minds. So that's our Fixing Our Street. And I think it's called Fix Our Streets, plural, Portland.com. And they have a Twitter account and Facebook and all those things. So go look them up. Yeah. Shelter in place. We have not been doing a good job, Portland. I know a lot of us think we've been doing a good job and we voluntarily signed up for this, but we could be doing so much better. We need to press our leaders right now. By my math, from the work that we did on our campaign, releasing that COVID community action plan, we're about 10 days behind. And I don't mean to scare you, and I don't want to disrupt your mental health or well-being. We have to insist that our leaders issue this statement. It helps us protect small businesses so that they can apply for insurance that they need. It helps protect our workers. I had a supermarket clerk send me a message saying she just felt so unsafe going to work, but that if she didn't go, she would lose her job. And what does that mean if we're forcing our supermarket clerks to go to work without additional hazard pay, without any protections in place? We've got people who are working in bars and restaurants who may be coughing on food because they're not well, and they're afraid that if they don't go to work, that they won't be able to pay their bills. We need to make sure people are protected. And so I really want you to continue to push. I know it feels like we're screaming into the void sometimes, especially here. Remotely from our homes and not in the streets where we're used to organizing, but let's make sure that we're keeping that pressure up into tomorrow, into this week. It's really already far too late. And if you feel like you're screaming, just keep screaming, keep screaming, keep screaming until it changes. It's something you can learn from me. It's just be relentless. It may feel like you're not making an impact, but cumulatively, it has a great impact, and we need to stay on that. It's been 11 days since I declared that we should have a state of emergency on this order, where this is the kind of thing we need to be moving the needle on a little bit more. Ted Wheeler said we have 8 days ago, I think he said, he can't do anything, but he can. Friday, there was that debacle of a news conference again. I don't know what the heck's going on with those people, but keep the pressure on. Yeah, and I apologize. I was swearing at Kate Brown a little bit on Friday night because, excuse me. I was swearing at Kate Brown a little bit on Friday night because I was really mad. I couldn't believe it. Friday night at 7, our reporters have been busting their butts so hard to cover things for us. I knew that they probably wanted to get home and spend some quiet time with their families. I know every single one of them has been under pressure out of their offices and just hustling so hard to cover this insanity of this news cycle that's like every 2 to 4 hours. So to have a press conference on a Friday night at 7 p.m. to say absolutely nothing, but then the governor said something to the effect of like, I really want small businesses to step up and take responsibility. And I was watching the press conference with my daughter, and I just yelled like, F you so hard at the screen. Like, and I yelled it a couple times, like at the top of my lungs, because our family business had closed down this week, and not because the governor helped us at all. And I don't even own it anymore, but my ex-husband works there, and my daughter works there, and all of our friends work there, and they're out of work. Like the loss of inventory, like the lost revenue, like they may not even get to reopen. And my tears were like in my eyes, and I was screaming, and I could just think like times thousands of people who are going through this in Portland, and to have our leaders, they completely screwing us over. I just couldn't take it anymore. So I apologize if I was a little harsh on Twitter, but yeah, that's a big FU to Kate Brown. Yeah, give me that, because she totally deserved it. I think there's a couple things, we're talking a little bit about protecting small businesses, protecting workers, protecting renters. We really need to think about protecting renters and protecting elders. There are going to be people who fall through the cracks, even if these protections come down from the feds. So let's stay focused on this, okay? Because I had word from people in the cannabis industry, right? You think about the fact that that's legal here in Oregon, but not legal with the feds. Well, we have workers in that industry. We have business owners in the industry. We have people who rely on cannabis for medicine. So let's make sure that we can get that declared essential and have our workers in our industry protected there. It's a big part of our economy. We need to think about immigrants and refugees. As I mentioned on the last live feed and also on the Twitter, is many people are afraid to file for unemployment benefits because they're worried about deportation. So let's make sure we're checking in on people, helping them, serving as proxies if we need to, making phone calls so that we know that we cannot trust the Trump administration. We have to watch the DOJ very carefully. In a time of crisis, we can either come together to be more empowered and more sustainable, or we can slip very quickly into authoritarianism and dominance of our people. And so we have to continue to resist, even though we're far away from each other right now and we're not in the streets together in solidarity. We have to stay in solidarity here. Now, the other sector that people don't talk a lot about is our sex workers. And this is something that's been very important to me. We have a lot of working women, and especially working mothers in this industry, that are often not cared for very well, either as workers or as wage earners. It's hard for them to get housing supports because oftentimes they can't document their income. And even I've heard reports that it's very difficult for them to deal with their money because it's a cash business and there's not enough Lysol available for them to sanitize the money so that they can actually take it. So these folks are very vulnerable. So if you're in touch with any organizations like this, personally, I support the Cupcake Girls. They're based in Las Vegas, but they have a shop here in Portland too. But there are many on the ground that are working on this. There's a sex worker decriminalization effort here in Oregon too. You could reach out to if you needed contacts. But make sure you're keeping an eye on them and helping them stay safe too, because a lot of their income may fall through the cracks, even with the replacements that are coming down. And so let's keep an eye on some of the folks who may be falling through the cracks. I see a question on the Facebook feed. Any support for renters? Anything in particular that you want to talk about on that front? I'm not sure. I have called for the eviction moratorium. I think we probably need a 2-month abeyance of rent collection. Now, my friend, when I talked to him in Kenya, many of the landlords are doing 2 months where they're not collecting rent. They're doing it voluntarily. I've had some landlords in Portland, actually small landlords, reach out to me and say, Sarah, I'm thinking about, putting the rent in abeyance and not collecting it for a month or two, but then I'm worried about meeting my bills on the other side. I think I would work in alignment with Community Alliance of Tenants, Portland Tenants United. I know that they've worked very hard organizing around these issues, and they have a housing security. I don't want to call it a Bill of Rights because I'm not sure what they're calling it. I can actually pull it up what they're thinking of. I think I got an email from them this week. In terms of, I'll put the link on Twitter after this, or on Facebook. I'll have the team throw it onto the campaign. But it's this notion that we have to start thinking about how can we solve problems locally in the short term while we're pressing at other levels of government for solutions. Now, this is something that's not always intuitive because Portlanders are very do-it-ourself, right? We're DIY, and we always want to solve every problem in-house. But one of the things that I talk about with visiting leaders when they come here, and that I think that we need to focus on too, is scaled problem solving. What can be most effective at the municipal level? What do we need to do at the county level, the regional level, the state, and then the feds? This is why coordinated leadership is so important. If we knew that Ted Wheeler was talking in effective ways with Deborah Kafori, was talking in effective ways with Kate Brown and Earl Blumenauer, and we thought that we trusted them to all be on the same page about what we needed to do, then we could all be applying pressure in the right ways to achieve outcomes that we know solve problems for our people across the state, county, and city. I don't see that going on because I don't see people saying, okay, hi, let's have this unified front on this. We can't even get them to declare the shelter in place policy, which is the blanket policy in unity. So I don't know how we're going to get them to put tenant protections and mortgage forgiveness and renter forgiveness, because I honestly think that the eviction moratorium is the very least that we can possibly do. And in fact, I'm quite worried about what will happen if we put that in place with a 6-month grace period. And then what happens at the end of those 6 months? If I didn't pay my rent or mortgage for 6 months and then I had to pay it at the end of 6 months, I would not have the money to do that. So I think we're going to have to watch. I think some of the policies that we probably want to put in place are anti-speculative. We should take lessons from Katrina. We should take lessons from even the hurricane or the tornado in Nashville recently, and make sure that we have anti-displacement mechanisms in place, anti-speculative mechanisms in place. We have to watch not just now. Right now is triage. It's the tourniquet that's going to staunch the bleeding, but we have to be careful about the gangrene that's going to come later for people when these bills start coming due. And if we're not fighting back in terms of forgiveness, rent forgiveness, mortgage forgiveness, and who we need to do that, I'm thinking we're going to have to go down the path of rent strikes, mortgage strikes, debt strikes. But again, this is why it's going to be so important to keep our communities healthy and our organizing healthy, because we're not going to have a good sense of what we need to do until we know it's coming down from the feds, until we know it's coming down from the state. Right now, we're in crisis mode. What we have to do right now is keep people from dying. Then on the other side of this is when we do that economic recovery, and we're going to need to be so strong and have such clarity around the direction that we want to go. And this is why I want to encourage you. And I'll start to pivot away from the politics, because I know everybody's overwhelmed and you're all inundated with this day in and day out. But let's do some reading and let's think about things like the shock doctrine. You know, be listening to coronavirus and the shock doctrine thinking, and what does that mean in terms of how we should be responding in these times. My sense of how this is going to go down is we have that choice right now. There's no destiny in front of us. There's no predetermined outcome to this at all. All of this is within our power. And it's one of the reasons I consistently say from the first day, even before this crisis, the first day of my campaign when we launched that video that said, we have everything we need to address our most pressing problems today. If we harness our resources and empower our people and organize our communities, we can be a formidable force for change. And there's no time like a crisis for this to happen. The shock, right? We can be swept away by capital interests who would scrape away every bit of value that we have created for our people here in community. The communalism, the communitarianism of what we've been able to build here, of connecting ourselves to care for each other, and the interest of capital in stealing that essentially from our people. And we can resist that, and we can build, I believe, a better future shaped around our core values of making sure that we are truly sustainable, that we are truly equitable, and that we have an inclusive society. And ultimately, we know that when we start to create these closed loop systems, oh, hi, Francis Bacon. He doesn't like it when I preach, I guess. But if we start to create these closed loop systems, then what we have is a much more sustainable economic future when we resist. This is not radical, right? The Green New Deal and all of these things, these are not radical. These are practical, timely responses to the crisis that we faced. On the more fun side, what are you doing to feed yourselves? So I have this new thing that I'm doing. Okay, I'm gonna leave you with 3 tips before I go. Is your dog getting sick of you? My daughter and I have a theory that our dog is actually tired of being our therapy dog here at home. Let me know if that's true for you. Like, hit me up on Twitter or Facebook and tell me, because it's a sneaking suspicion. I can't tell, but it's like he needs quiet time away from his people after he's always been wanting to be with us. So I'm saying it's like a secret, but I don't know. I never thought my dog would get sick of me, but he is. So on the food front, I don't know how many of you have been stay-at-home moms or stay-at-home caregivers before, but I think this soft quarantine that we're in most closely reminds me of when I was postpartum and I came home from the hospital with my baby, and I felt like all I did was sit on the couch and nurse my baby all day long. And if we were lucky, I got everybody wrapped up and bundled up and out into the stroller, and we'd walk around the block, or we'd go to the playground, and then we'd come home and we were stuck inside. And so I've had that flashbacks to that moment, and some of the things that I remember about that time that are true here now. Laundry, right? How are we doing so much laundry when we're not even getting dressed to go out? I barely knew what to wear for y'all today. I've been like in sweatshirts and sweatpants for days and days. So thank you for giving me an excuse to shower and like put on a shirt. But laundry, it just seems like it's coming from everywhere. Cleaning. Like, I have never cleaned. Like, I don't know if you saw our kickoff video, but we had so many fights in my campaign because my garage was like full. And in parts because I do so much community activism. So I've got things stored for people who are experiencing homelessness. There's like food bags. There's like there's so much stuff in there. Plus all my stuff up for moving and everywhere. So we've been cleaning. Like, everything is so clean here. So we're cleaning a ton. And then cooking. So you cook all day and you eat all day. And then there's dishes. So cooking and cleaning and dishes. And I'm like, wow, being quarantined is hard work. I haven't done this much hard work since I was a stay-at-home mom. So I've been trying to minimize the amount of dishes and laundry. Try not to clean too much. But here's my recipe secret. And I think if you have a Instapot or a rice cooker, or it might work in a Dutch oven, I don't know, but you need a little bit of steam and pressure, is I have been cooking so many one-pot meals. It's not even funny. So what I do is I take the rice cooker and whatever ingredients I can find that are about to spoil, because as a former food service person, I use FIFO, right? First in, first out. You use what's about to spoil. You don't throw any food away. We hardly throw any food away in this house. Is you put it in the rice cooker. So usually there's like a protein, a carb, some kind of vegetables, and some liquid, and then you turn on the pot. And when you come back, you wait to see what's in there. So we have had rice cooker lasagna. We have had rice cooker chocolate cake. Today I had rice cooker sweet potato pancake. It's like I took all the pancake mix and put it in there, and then we cut it into slices. We've had rice cooker stir fry. We've had rice cooker, all kinds of things. So the thing I like about this is, if you don't eat it all, we don't have a microwave, so I don't know how you heat up food here, but if we were heating up food in the stove all the time, the pots would be such a mess. So when you cook it in the rice cooker, when it comes time to eat another meal, I just put it back in the rice cooker and put it on hot again, and it's already hot. It's a non-stick pan. I don't keep a lot of Teflon in the house. I think it's one of our few Teflon coated things. So it rinses completely clean. And even if I don't, I take whatever was stuck in there and I turn it out and I cut it in slices and we eat it or something. So if you come up with some good rice cooker, one pot meal recipes, send them my way because I'm running out and my daughter is going absolutely bananas because she only likes about half of them and I'll eat anything. So if you have some good rice cooker recipes, send them my way. Also, if there are things that you're working on that we're not talking about and you want to be talking about them, hit us up. This is an important time for civic learning. And so if there are things that we can be doing better, please let me and my team know. We are trying really hard to stay connected. We're trying hard to stay in it, and we're going to need your support through the end. I know everyone's really busy. I know you've got a lot on your mind, and I know most of you are broke. So I'm going to send out this request to people who aren't broke right now. And if you are broke or worried about money, ignore it and don't feel bad for a minute about ignoring it. But if you do have any money, I would ask you to send us $5, $8, $10, $15 if you can. And maybe it's only one time. You don't have to commit to anything beyond that. But this campaign is going to need money to reach people in ways that we haven't been able to reach them before. So money that we might have spent $100 getting donuts and coffee for 100 volunteers, that's going to have to be money that we spend on postage, printing, mailing, because we have to reach people in ways where we can't use volunteer labor anymore. And so thinking about that, we do need your continued support. We are still qualifying for the Open and Accountable Elections program, and that money is set aside in a special fund, so it's not pulling off any emergency money from the city. But we'd like to continue to mobilize that and make sure that we're getting good, solid leadership into local government in the next election cycle. The election is May 19th. We're just about, April, May, right? 2 months away from election day now. And so we really need to mobilize. So if you have $5, $10, $15, $25, please send it our way. If you don't, we're asking you to give us an hour or 2 or 3 hours of your time to help, whether that's phone banking or any of the things that I talked about at the beginning of the live cast. Please let us know. You can go to sarah2020.com/events. You can always sign up for one at the last minute. There's no problem. Our team is very willing to help you get engaged on whatever way it works for you in this distributed organizing model. And also, I just want you to know that I'm very thankful to have you alongside me in this journey. I am an extrovert. Our team jokes that Sarah shows up, and in part it's because when I go out into community, that is what feeds me. You keep me sane, you keep me healthy, you keep me having a clarity of purpose and an understanding of the direction that we need to go by sharing your stories, by sharing your truth, by sharing your raw emotions and your feedback and your reflections in real time. And I'm a big proponent of community learning and the fact that what we're doing as we engage authentically with each other and honestly with each other in real time is that we're creating a community that's going to be stronger on the other side of this crisis. So do good self-care, stay in it, stay soft, stay vulnerable, stay healthy, make sure you're getting a little bit of fresh air, eat your healthy one-pot meals, if you will, and I'll talk to you soon, probably in the middle of next week. I'll come back on a live cast. Thanks so much for spending time with us. I really appreciate it. Take care.